but the inherent movement is clear and strong, unquote. James goes on to look at the role of the sugar industry in the Caribbean as a source of labor exploitation and profit for the imperialists, but also as a production center that played a key part in shaping the consciousness of the people of the region and consequently their contributions to the overall international working class struggle. James goes on to point out that, quote, the history of the West Indies is governed by two factors: the sugar plantation and Negro slavery. The majority of the population in Cuba was never slaves, does not affect the underlying social identity. Wherever the sugar plantation and slavery existed, they imposed a pattern, unquote. These two factors have shaped the history and the class character of the Caribbean, are rooted within the production process itself. James goes on to say that, quote, the sugar plantation has been the most demoralizing influence in West Indian development. When 3 centuries ago the slaves came to the West Indies, they entered directly into the large-scale agriculture and sugar plantation, which was a modern system at that time. It further required that the slaves live together in a social relations far closer than any proletariat of the time. The cane, when reaped, had to be rapidly transported to what was factory production. The product was shipped abroad for sale. Even the cloth the slaves wore, the food they ate, were imported. The Africans, therefore, from the very start, lived a life that was in essence a modern life. That is their history, as far as I have been able to discover, a unique history, unquote. Even today, in the aftermath of the quake, it is the United States, the leading imperialist power on the globe, that is dominating the political situation in Haiti. Why was it necessary to send thousands of U.S. Marines and Army personnel? In previous military occupations of Haiti, the people have suffered immensely. At the same time, these periods within Haitian history were where the people were subjected to military occupations, the masses have rose up in resistance. After the U.S. invasion on February 29, 2004, they deposed President Aristide and imposed a puppet regime that was allied with imperialism. The United Nations operation in Haiti carried out the foreign policy aims of the United States. Therefore, when the corporate media and the capitalist state advances the notion of the inherent dependency of the Haitian masses and the altruistic motives of U.S. imperialism, the actual history of relations between the two countries must always be considered. Workers and oppressed people in the United States have a role to play in the current crisis in Haiti. The anti-war and peace movement can also raise issues in the current debate around U.S. assistance to the Caribbean nation. The workers and the oppressed, through their organizations, can demand that all direct aid to the Haitian people must be delivered immediately. They can demand that aid shipments be distributed in conjunction with grassroots community organizations operating on the ground in Haiti. The anti-war and peace organizations must call upon the Obama administration to cease and refrain from utilizing military force against the Haitian people. That the weapons carried by the Army and the Marines be unloaded, so that there can be some effort towards developing trust between aid distributors and the Haitian masses. All groups can call for the permanent lifting of deportation orders against Haitians in this country. Thousands, tens of thousands of them. They temporarily lifted the orders, but in fact, they should be permanently lifted. What is the most significant outstanding issues involving U.S.-Haitian relations is the right of President John Bertrand Aristide to return to Haiti. Aristide, in a statement after the quake, expressed his willingness to return to Haiti in order to assist in the reconstruction process. There should also be an immigration process for Haitians who wish to travel and live in the United States. It was the African National Congress government in the Republic of South Africa that supported Aristide when he was under attack by the imperialist countries in 2003 and 2004. Former South African President Thabo Mbeki supported the 200th anniversary of independence celebrations held in Haiti on January the 1st, 2004. At great personal risk and amid threats to the South African state, President Mbeki refused to leave after his helicopter was fired on by counter-revolutionary elements operating in Haiti during this period. South Africa clearly understood the connection between the revolution that overthrew slavery in Haiti during the 18th and early 19th centuries and the struggle to abolish apartheid and settler colonialism in southern Africa that reached fruition during the closing decades of the 20th century. Just as the Haitian Revolution drew the attention and support of African people outside of Hispaniola, the South African Revolution attracted the support of people through the African world and the international community as a whole during the latter years of the 20th century. The Cuban government, under the leadership of Fidel Castro, sent over 250,000 of its own people to Angola between 1975 and 1989 to fight in solidarity with the African masses in their quest for total liberation of the subcontinent. These joint efforts between Cuba, Angola, Namibia, and the people of South Africa resulted in the defeat of the racist apartheid system that had been responsible for the oppression, destruction, and death of millions throughout the region. Moreover, based upon the history of military intervention, labor exploitation, and unwarranted interference in the internal affairs of Haiti, the United States, France, and Canada all should pay large-scale reparations to the Haitian people that would serve as a mechanism to assist in the reconstruction of the country. Thank you very much.